Then we have a test on Wednesday, Thursday next week. So very
to these particular conditions.
As you say, that conditions are a bit special here. That it's difficult to say sometimes. Okay, for sure, basically the grip level is low, but it's quite different asphalt from many other places. And also, I have to say that all of our riders, they didn't feel great yesterday. That there is not really best front feeling in many points. A little bit like a rear pushing front feelings and etc. But I would say that it was not only us, as you mentioned about the conditions. So difficult to say if this is advantage for us or not. But better we are just focusing for our work, and now in next half hour we understand much more.
Looking back to pre-season and then round one, obviously the conditions in Thailand were extreme, but there were big concerns there about the KTM's ability to look after the rear tyre. And at the end of the race, there were concerns over tyre life. But looking at the pace yesterday, Maverick, Pedro in particular, looked to be pretty strong and in that top 5 fight. So do you feel that you overcome those challenges from the start of the year?
For sure, it will be forever the question mark at tyre life. Everyone is working all the time for that as well, but I think we understand much more the situation, and we have changed, let's say, the setup for all the riders also.
Rather than half empty, but he feels he's maybe only got to improve by a tenth or two to maybe get on terms with Alex Marquez. So we'll see whether Maverick Vinales is proven correct on the Tech 3 KTM, but the general trend, you're absolutely right, was the most expected to be Mark and Alex up at the front, and then quite a big group behind them, which might well involve the KTMs. You'd expect it to involve Pecco Bagnaia. You'd also potentially expect it to involve the Hondas of Johan Zarco and Joan Mir. So there is certainly going to be quite a big battle achievable for Bezzecchi. If he can achieve that, he will also be firmly in that group that we've been describing already, which could be as many as half a dozen or more riders that could be fighting for that final spot on the podium. If it is the Marquez brothers that occupy the top 2 spots, as we watch the Aprilia come on the inside of us, as we were on board with Fabio Di Gianantonio and Marco Bezzecchi now leading down this 900-metre back straight.
It was kind of a strange and weird day here yesterday in Aragon, because every rider to a man was complaining about the lack of grip. They were saying there's a narrow racing line. If you do stray off that line, the track's very dirty and dusty, which makes it even slicker as Fermin Aldeguer fires himself up to top spot, albeit briefly. But we didn't have a single crash in MotoGP. And a couple of riders were saying that when you know that the track is suffering with such a lack of grip, you're always having to sort of leave that little bit of margin. You're not really pushing to the absolute ragged edge, not to the extreme limit. And that's why we didn't see any sort of casualties of the low grip conditions yesterday. What's happening here to Alex Marquez?
We already saw Marc Marquez, and then he went into the back of him earlier on the lap, and then he had a little touch there, it looked like on the front end, coming through turn 16, and kept himself well out of the way of Fermin Aldeguer, who was on his way to setting what was at the time the fastest lap of the session. And he saw what it looked like from on board Alex Marquez. Just to underline the point you're making there about how you've got to almost creep up on the limit and ride within yourself. The opposite of that was Fabio Quartararo yesterday, wasn't it? When he was clearly riding over the limit of that Yamaha, and every time he tried
Quartararo was teasing, wasn't he, in the pre-event press conference on Thursday when I asked him what he was testing next week, because Yamaha are doing a 2-pronged testing program next week. They're here on Aragon on Monday, as Lewis mentioned, and they're packing up and driving overnight to do a 2-day test at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, just about 3 hours back up the road. And there's all kinds of murmurs. A couple of sources inside the Yamaha camp who are hinting and teasing that maybe this will be the week that Fabio Quartararo may finally jump on Yamaha's new V4 engine project. We'll keep close tabs on that one over the next week or so, see how that one pans out. Jack, down to you.
Yeah, just on that test on Wednesday and Thursday at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, I'm not entirely sure if the factory boys are going to be there, but absolutely for certain the Pramac boys will be there in Jack Miller and Miguel Oliveira, which means that over a week's span they will have ridden on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, day off on Tuesday, and then back on the bikes at the garage and immediately speak to their crew chief. But this weekend is totally different. The first person that the riders are chatting to pretty much across the board is their data engineers. Yesterday so many riders were speaking about trying to get the electronics absolutely perfect. It was all that the Yamaha riders spoke about, as that's where their problems were coming. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, day off on Tuesday, and then back on the bikes at the garage and immediately speak to their crew chief. But this weekend, it's totally different. The first person that the riders are chatting to, pretty much across the board, is their data engineers. Yesterday, so many riders were speaking about trying to get the electronics absolutely perfect. It was all that the Yamaha riders spoke about, as that's where their problems were.
When he went back out for his second run on the same set of tyres, he did a 1:46.793, which was still good enough to be the third fastest time of yesterday's practice session. He did say though yesterday, if you look at this replay down into turn 16, we're on board with Frankie Morbidelli. He gets blitzed, doesn't he? Slipstream City there for Mark on the brakes into turn 16. That's where Morbidelli had the scare with the smoke coming out of his exhaust yesterday.